The first time I caught them plotting against me, I was supposed to be asleep. Instead, I stood frozen in our darkened hallway, one hand pressed against the wall, listening to my husband and his mother discuss having me committed. My name is Ingrid, and 3 weeks ago I lost my baby. Our baby. The one Carson and I had tried for 2 years to conceive. The one whose heartbeat we'd heard just days before it stopped. The one whose nursery still sat half-painted down the hall, a testament to hopes that died too soon. "She's not getting better, Mother." Carson's voice drifted from his study. "She barely eats. She talks to herself. Sometimes I hear her in the nursery at night." "The inheritance complicates things," Edith replied, her cultured voice dripping with false concern. "We need to handle this delicately. The right facility, the right paperwork. Everything must appear above board." My fingers dug into the wallpaper. Inheritance, of course, the trust fund my parents left me, the one that would fully vest on my 33rd birthday, the one Carson couldn't touch without my signature. "Dr. Matthews owes me a favor," Edith continued. "He'll sign whatever we need." Poor dear Ingrid, suffering from postpartum psychosis. Such a tragedy. "She'll fight it," Carson said. "No, she won't. She's too broken right now. We just need to convince her it's for her own good. Play up her paranoia, her instability, document everything." I pressed my other hand against my mouth, fighting the urge to scream. 3 weeks ago, Carson had held me while I sobbed in the hospital. He'd whispered promises of forever, of healing together. Now he was plotting with his mother to have me locked away. "The Fernwood Center has an excellent reputation," Edith said, very discreet, very thorough, with difficult patients. "Once she's admitted, we can petition for temporary guardianship. For her own protection, of course." "Of course," Carson echoed. And I heard the smile in his voice. The same smile he'd given me this morning over coffee, asking if I'd slept well, noting how pale I looked. My legs trembled. I wanted to burst in, to confront them, to scream and rage and demand answers. Instead, I forced myself to breathe slowly, to listen. "Give it another week," Edith advised. "Keep suggesting she's not well. Dr. Matthews will make a house call, express his concerns, then we'll have our family intervention. All out of love, naturally." "Naturally," Carson agreed. "Poor fragile Ingrid. She never was quite strong enough for this family, was she?" Their laughter felt like acid in my veins. I backed away silently. Years of tiptoeing around Edith's criticism, finally useful for something. In our bedroom, I closed the door without a sound and sank to the floor. They thought I was broken, fragile, weak. Maybe I had been, these past weeks. Grief had hollowed me out, left me raw and vulnerable. They'd watched me shatter and saw an opportunity. My hand drifted to my still tender abdomen, where my baby had grown and died. The pain was still there, a physical ache that might never fully heal. But something else was growing now, something cold and hard and sharp. I reached for my phone with trembling fingers, scrolling through contacts until I found the number I needed, one I'd saved years ago, when I first noticed something off about Carson's financial questions, about Edith's too keen interest in my inheritance. It rang twice. "Barry Wright's office," a familiar voice answered. "Uncle Barry," I whispered, my voice steadier than I expected. "It's Ingrid. It's happening. Just like you warned me it might. I need your help. Are you safe right now?" "For the moment." "They're planning to have me committed, to steal everything." A pause, then. "Begin recording everything. Every conversation, every text. I'll have papers drawn up by morning." "And Ingrid?" "Yes. Don't let them see you coming. Let them think they've won until it's too late." I ended the call and wiped away tears I hadn't realized were falling. In the study, Carson and Edith were still talking, still planning my destruction, still assuming I was exactly what they wanted me to be: weak, broken, easily disposed of. They had no idea what they'd just created. "You're looking better today, darling." Carson's hand brushed my shoulder, as I stood at the kitchen counter, methodically crushing my morning vitamins into powder. Though you really should try to get more sleep. I gave him the fragile smile I'd been practicing in the mirror. The nightmares are still bad. Poor thing. He kissed my temple. The gesture that once brought comfort now made my skin crawl. Mother's coming for dinner. She's worried about you. Of course she was. I'd spent the past week playing the role they expected. The grieving, unstable widow in the making. What they didn't know was that every confused moment, every paranoid episode, was carefully calculated. I'll try to be better company this time, I whispered. Don't strain yourself. His patronizing tone made my fingers tighten around the pill crusher. Just be yourself. The moment he left for work, I pulled out my phone and texted Olive. Coffee, our spot, now. 20 minutes later, I sat in the back booth of a tiny cafe 10 miles from home. Olive slid in across from me, her familiar presence already easing some of the tension in my shoulders. You look like hell, she said bluntly. I'm supposed to. I pulled out my phone, showing her the video I'd recorded that morning. Carson's voice played clearly. Mother thinks we should start documenting her episodes. Olive's face darkened. That absolute bastard. And after everything with the baby. I need a favor. I slid a key across the table. Carson has a private office at home. Third drawer down, there's a folder marked Family Trust. I need copies. When? Tonight, during dinner. You'll have 40 minutes while Edith keeps me distracted with her special brand of concern. Olive pocketed the key. You're sure about this? Once we start. They started this, I said quietly. I'm just finishing it. That evening, I wore the pale blue dress Edith had given me. The one she said made me look appropriately delicate. I'd barely touched my food, watching the clock tick toward 8 p.m. when Olive would let herself in through the back door. The garden club is simply devastated you haven't been attending, Edith was saying, swirling her wine. Everyone asks about you. I'm not ready for crowds, I murmured, pushing food around my plate. The anxiety. Perfectly understandable, she soothed, shooting Carson a meaningful look. In fact, I know an excellent facility that specializes in anxiety treatment, very exclusive. My hand shook as I reached for my water glass, knocking it over. Oh, I'm so sorry. It's fine, darling. Carson jumped up. Let's get you cleaned up. As they fussed over the spill, I saw a shadow move past the kitchen window. Right on time, Olive. Perhaps we should discuss treatment options, Edith pressed once we'd settled again. Before things get worse. I let my eyes fill with tears. You think I'm getting worse? Mother's just concerned, Carson said smoothly. We both are. The nightmares, the confusion with your medications. I'm trying, I whispered, knowing Olive needed just a few more minutes. Of course you are, dear. Edith reached across the table to pat my hand. But sometimes trying isn't enough. Sometimes we need professional help. My phone buzzed, Olive's signal that she was done. I stood abruptly, letting my chair scrape loudly. I need a moment. In the bathroom, I checked my texts. Got everything, Olive wrote. Plus, something interesting from his email. Call me tomorrow. I splashed water on my face, took several deep breaths, then returned to the dining room, looking appropriately unstable. I'm sorry, I said softly. You're right, maybe I do need help. The triumphant look that flashed between Carson and Edith made my blood boil. But I kept my expression vulnerable, lost. After they left, Carson wrapped his arms around me from behind. I'm proud of you, accepting help like this. Mother knows some excellent doctors. I'm sure she does, I thought, leaning back against him, as if seeking comfort. I wondered how many other unstable women they'd done this to before me. Later, alone in bed, I pulled out the burner phone Barry had given me and typed, "Documents secured. What's next?" His response came quickly. "Meeting tomorrow, 2 p.m. Bring everything. And Ingrid, you're doing great. They don't suspect a thing." I deleted the messages and stared at the ceiling. listening to Carson's steady breathing beside me. Soon, I thought, soon they'd learn exactly how expensive it was to underestimate a grieving woman. My phone lit up with one final message from Olive. Found bank statements, multiple accounts. You need to see this. I closed my eyes, feeling that cold, hard thing inside me grow stronger. The game was on, and I was playing to win. They've done this before. Barry spread the documents across his desk, his expression grim. 3 times that I can find. All women with significant assets, all declared mentally unfit after emotional crises. I leaned forward, studying the papers Olive had retrieved. What happened to them? One committed suicide in the facility. Another is still there, heavily medicated. The third, he shuffled through some papers, disappeared. No death certificate, just gone. My hands trembled as I picked up a bank statement. These accounts, Carson opened them in my name, with forged signatures. Barry's voice hardened. They're moving your money, bit by bit. Small enough amounts to avoid attention. The total so far is just over 200,000. The room spun slightly. I gripped the edge of his desk. When? It started 3 months ago. He met my eyes. Right after you announced the pregnancy. The implications hit me like a physical blow. While I'd been picking out nursery colors, my husband had been systematically stealing from me, planning my downfall even as he held my hair during morning sickness. There's more, Barry said quietly. Olive found emails between Carson and Dr. Matthews dating back 6 months. They've been planning your breakdown since before the miscarriage. A memory surfaced, sharp and painful. The night I lost the baby. Carson insisted on that specific hospital, said Dr. Matthews was the best. The timing was convenient for them, Barry confirmed. They were already laying groundwork, but your grief gave them the perfect opportunity. My phone buzzed, a text from Carson. Don't forget your appointment with Mother's therapist today. I can come home early if you need support. They're moving faster, I said, showing Barry the message. Edith's been hinting about Fernwood more openly. Then we move faster too. Barry pulled out a thick folder. I've prepared emergency injunctions, freezing orders for all joint accounts, and a petition for immediate divorce, citing fraud and emotional abuse. Not yet, I said, remembering the look that passed between Carson and Edith at dinner. They're planning something big, something soon. We need to catch them in the act. Barry's phone rang. He answered, listened, then smiled grimly. That was my investigator. Guess who else is staying at Fernwood? Edith's sister, the one everyone thinks is traveling in Europe. Cold realization dawned. They're keeping her there too. For the past 2 years, after her husband's suspicious death left her with a sizable insurance payout. I stood, pacing the office. We need proof. Concrete evidence of what they're doing at Fernwood. Already working on it, but Ingrid. Barry's voice softened. This goes deeper than we thought. These people, they're dangerous. So am I replied, thinking of my baby, of all the other women they'd destroyed. They just don't know it yet. The door opened, and Olive slipped in, looking worried. Krista just called me. Edith scheduled a family meeting for Friday. She's flying in relatives. The intervention, I said. That's their move. They'll have everyone there to witness my instability. Perfect. Barry's eyes gleamed. We'll have witnesses too. Just not the ones they're expecting. I checked the time. I need to go. I have to meet their therapist and play the perfect troubled patient. Be careful, Olive warned. Don't oversell it. Trust me. I gathered my purse, tucking a small recording device inside. I know exactly how broken they need me to be. As I turned to leave, Barry called out, Ingrid? There's something else you should know. About Carson's first wife. I froze. What first wife? The one who died 10 years ago, in a private mental health facility. He held up a death certificate. Cause of death, suicide. Facility name, Fernwood Center. The pieces clicked into place. Carson's expertise at handling my grief. His careful documentation of my symptoms. The way he'd known exactly which buttons to push. He's done this before, I whispered. Yes, Barry confirmed. And that time, he got everything. My phone buzzed again. Carson. Checking in. How are you feeling, darling? I typed back, a bit confused today, having trouble focusing. His response was immediate. Don't worry, we'll get you the help you need, I promise. I looked at Barry and Olive, my allies in this twisted game. Friday, I said. We end this Friday. Be careful, Barry warned again. One wrong move. I know. I straightened my shoulders, adjusted my expression to the perfect mixture of confusion and despair. Don't worry. I've learned from the best how to play broken. As I left Barry's office, another text came through, this one from Edith. Tea tomorrow, dear. We need to discuss your future. I smiled, thinking of all the evidence mounting against them. Yes, I replied. We certainly do. Edith's pristine living room always made me feel like an intruder. Today, sitting across from Krista while her mother prepared tea in the kitchen, the feeling was worse than ever. You look tired, Krista said softly. Are you sleeping better? I let my hands shake slightly as I arranged my skirt. The medication helps, sometimes, when I remember to take it. Mother says you've been forgetting things lately. Have I? I blinked slowly, carefully. Everything's so fuzzy these days. Krista leaned forward, lowering her voice. Ingrid, I'm worried about you, really worried. Here we are. Edith swept in with the tea service, all elegant efficiency. Krista, darling, pour for us. I watched Krista's hands tremble slightly as she served. She'd always been the soft one, the one Edith complained about most. Not tough enough, not shrewd enough, like me. Ingrid, dear, Edith settled into her armchair. Carson tells me you've been visiting the nursery again. I stared into my teacup. I thought I heard crying. The sisters exchanged glances. Perfect. And the garden club incident? Edith pressed. Mrs. Peterson was quite concerned. What incident? Krista asked. Oh, I whispered. Was that real? I thought I dreamed it. She showed up in her nightgown, Edith explained, her voice dripping concern. Asking about a baby, in the middle of their luncheon. I hadn't, of course, but the story had spread exactly as I'd planned when I'd called Mrs. Peterson last week, crying and confused, then hanging up. I'm sorry, I murmured. Everything's so mixed up. Of course it is, dear. Edith patted my knee. That's why we're all so concerned. Why we're looking into options. Options? Krista's voice sharpened slightly. There's a lovely facility, Edith continued. Very exclusive. They specialize in cases like Ingrid's. Cases like mine? I let my voice waver. Emotional fragility, dear. Post-traumatic stress. They have an excellent success rate. Success at what? Krista asked. Edith's smile tightened. Helping troubled women find peace? Of course. I stood abruptly, swaying slightly. Bathroom, I mumbled, hurrying from the room. In the hallway, I pressed against the wall, listening. Mother, this feels wrong, Krista was saying. She's grieving, not crazy. Don't be naive, darling. She's dangerous to herself. Carson found her with scissors in the nursery last week. Another planted story. Carson was getting better at this. But a facility, shouldn't she be home? With family. Sometimes family isn't enough. Edith's voice hardened. Remember your Aunt Margaret. How we couldn't help her either. Aunt Margaret. Krista sounded confused. But she's in Europe. Is she? I whispered, stepping back into the room. Are you sure about that, Krista? Edith's teacup clattered against its saucer. Ingrid, dear, you startled us. Sorry, I smiled vaguely. I get confused about where I am sometimes. Which doors lead where? Like at Fernwood, right? Fernwood. Krista frowned. What's Fernwood? Nothing, dear. Edith cut in smoothly. Ingrid's confused again. Perhaps we should call Carson. No. I let panic edge my voice. Please, I'll be good. I won't mention the doors again. Or the screaming at night. What screaming? Krista stood. Mother, what is she talking about? She's having an episode, Edith said firmly. Ingrid, dear, let's get you home. But the other women, I pressed, watching Krista's face. The ones behind the doors, don't you hear them too? Mother, Krista's voice shook. What is going on? Nothing that concerns you, Edith snapped. Ingrid is unwell, that's all you need to know. I swayed, clutching the door frame. I'm sorry, everything's spinning again. I'll drive you home, Krista offered quickly. No, Edith interjected. I'll call Carson. He knows how to handle these situations. Perfect. I slumped into a chair, watching through lowered lashes as doubt bloomed across Krista's face. Maybe, Krista hesitated. Maybe I should stay with Ingrid for a few days. Help out. Absolutely not. Edith's mask slipped slightly. This isn't your concern. My phone buzzed. A text from Barry. Documents found. Aunt Margaret's commitment papers. Moving forward? I typed back one word. Yes. Carson's on his way, Edith announced, hanging up her phone. Krista, you should go. But, now Krista. I caught Krista's hand as she passed. Thank you, I whispered, for caring about the women behind the doors. She stared at me, something shifting in her eyes. Then Edith practically pushed her out, leaving me alone with my mother-in-law. Poor dear, Edith said coldly. You really are getting worse, aren't you? I smiled vaguely at the wall. Am I? I can never tell anymore. But I could tell exactly what was happening. And soon, so would Krista. The intervention was set up exactly as I'd expected. Our living room had been rearranged. Chairs in a circle, with me positioned, so the afternoon sun would shine directly in my eyes. Classic Edith. Every detail calculated for maximum discomfort. We're all here because we love you, Carson began. His practice concern, perfect. We're worried, darling. I glanced around the circle. Carson, Edith, Dr. Matthews, Krista, two cousins I barely knew, and a woman introduced as a family counselor. Behind a potted plant, Olive's hidden camera recorded everything. I don't understand, I whispered, picking at my sleeve. Did I do something wrong? No, Dr. Matthews soothed. We're here to help. Your recent behavior has us concerned. What behavior? The nursery incidents, Edith supplied. The confusion with your medication. The episodes. I turned to Krista, who wouldn't meet my eyes. Episodes? You've been seeing things, dear, Carson said gently. Hearing voices. Remember the garden club? That was real. I let my voice shake. I thought I dreamed that. You see? Edith addressed the group. Complete disconnection from reality. Tell us about the nursery, Ingrid, Dr. Matthews prompted. About the crying you hear. I wrapped my arms around myself. Sometimes I think I hear our baby. Is that wrong? And the scissors, Carson pressed. Why were you holding scissors in there? I looked around frantically. Was I? You were cutting up the baby clothes, Edith said. Don't you remember? I hadn't been, of course, but they'd planted shredded onesies in the nursery last week. Another piece of their fabricated evidence. I would never, I protested weakly. Those were for my baby. The baby is gone, Ingrid, Dr. Matthews said firmly. This denial isn't healthy. I'm not in denial. I stood suddenly, swaying. I know my baby is dead. I felt it die inside me. Krista made a small pained sound. Sit down, dear, Edith commanded. You're getting hysterical. Am I? I turned to her. Like Aunt Margaret got hysterical. The room went very still. Margaret is in Europe, Edith said smoothly. We've discussed this. Have we? I pressed a hand to my forehead. Everything's so confused, like the doors at Fernwood. Fernwood? One of the cousins asked. It's a very exclusive treatment center, Dr. Matthews explained quickly. One we think would benefit Ingrid greatly. Benefit? I laughed, letting it edge toward hysteria. Like it benefited Carson's first wife. Carson's face went white. What are you talking about? I don't know, I said vaguely. Am I talking? Sometimes I say things I hear behind doors. She's delusional, Edith announced. Dr. Matthews, I think we need to move forward with admission immediately. No, I backed away. No, please, I'll be better. I won't talk about the doors anymore, or the women behind them, or the money. Money, Krista's head snapped up. What money? Nothing, Carson said sharply. She's confused. The accounts, I whispered. All those accounts with my name. But I didn't open them, did I? Did I forget that too? Carson stood. That's enough. Dr. Matthews, do you have the papers? Of course. He pulled out a folder. Ingrid, this is for your own good. A temporary guardianship while you recover. Recover from what? I asked, my voice small. From losing my baby, or from knowing too much? Ingrid, Edith's voice was steel. Sit down and sign the papers. I sank into my chair, hands shaking as I took the pen. Will I end up like the others? Behind the doors? What others? Krista demanded. Mother, what is she talking about? She's having an episode, Edith snapped. Ingrid, sign the papers. I held the pen over the signature line, letting tears fall. I hear them at night sometimes. Aunt Margaret, Carson's first wife, the others, they scream and scream. This is ridiculous, Carson exploded. Sign the damn papers. Carson, Dr. Matthews warned. Stay calm. But Carson grabbed my wrist, forcing the pen down. Sign them, now. You're hurting me, I whimpered, loud enough for the camera to pick up. Carson. Krista stood. Stop it. Stay out of this, Edith ordered. Like you told me to stay out of it with Aunt Margaret. Krista's voice rose before she mysteriously went to Europe. The room erupted into chaos. Perfect chaos. Every outburst, every revelation, every crack in their careful facade caught on camera. I met Krista's eyes across the room and saw understanding dawn there. She knew. She finally knew. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Barry's signal. Everything was recorded. We had what we needed. Now it was time to show them exactly how unstable I could be. You need to leave. Now. Krista's voice shook as she helped me throw clothes into a suitcase. They're making calls. Mother's furious. After the disaster of the intervention, Carson had stormed out to clear his head. Edith was downstairs with Dr. Matthews, probably planning damage control. The cousins had fled, horrified by what they'd witnessed. Did you know? I asked, watching Krista's face. About any of it? I suspected something. The way Mother handled Aunt Margaret's breakdown. But this? She shuddered. The bank accounts. Carson's first wife. How long have you known? Long enough to get proof. I pulled out my phone, showing her the recordings, the documents. Your mother and Carson have done this before, multiple times. Oh God. Krista sank onto the bed. The women at Fernwood, are they all victims? Yes, but not for much longer. My phone buzzed. Barry. Papers filed. Judge granted emergency hearing. Get out now. Krista. Edith's voice carried up the stairs. Are you still here? Come down at once. Krista flinched. Go. I'll stall them. Come with me, I urged. You don't have to be part of this. She hesitated. I can't. Not yet. But I'll help however I can. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy ones. Carson was back. The back stairs, Krista whispered. Through the kitchen. Olive's waiting, right? I nodded, grabbing my suitcase. Be careful. They're dangerous when cornered. Krista. Carson's voice now. Where's Ingrid? Coming. Krista called back, then turned to me. Go. And Ingrid. Make them pay. I slipped down the back stairs as Krista descended the main staircase, buying me time. The kitchen was dark, but I knew every creaky floorboard after months of midnight wandering. She's not in our room, Carson's voice carried from above. Check the nursery. Almost there. 3 more steps to the back door. Going somewhere, dear? I froze. Edith stood in the doorway, her elegant figure backlit by the porch light. I need air, I said, letting my voice waver. Everything's so confused. Of course it is. She stepped forward. That's why we're getting you help, professional help. Like you helped Aunt Margaret. Her smile tightened. Margaret is very happy in Europe. Is she? I took out my phone, because I have her commitment papers right here, signed by you, and Carson, and Dr. Matthews. Give me the phone, Ingrid. Or what? You'll have me committed too. drugged into compliance. How many women have you and Carson destroyed? We helped them, she hissed. Weak women who couldn't handle their responsibilities, their money, just like you. Ingrid. Carson appeared at the top of the stairs. What are you doing? Leaving, I said clearly. It's over. You're not well. He started down the steps. You need help. Like you helped your first wife. I watched him stumble. Did she need help too? Before she died at Fernwood. You don't know what you're talking about, he snarled. Don't I? I held up my phone. I have proof of everything. The forged accounts, the fake medical records, Aunt Margaret's illegal commitment, your first wife's suspicious death. Give me the phone, Edith demanded, stepping closer. It's too late. I backed toward the door. Everything's already been sent to the police, the DA, the medical board. You're lying, Carson said. But uncertainty crept into his voice. Am I? Check your accounts, Carson. All those clever little transfers you made. Frozen. The evidence you planted. Documented. The witnesses you paid. Singing to save themselves. You couldn't, Edith whispered. You're broken. Weak. No, I said softly. I'm angry. And I've been playing you both since the day I overheard you planning my commitment. A car horn honked outside. Olive's signal. You'll never prove anything, Carson said desperately. Who would believe you over us? The judge who just granted my emergency hearing might. I opened the door. Check your email. The court order should be arriving any minute. Ingrid. Edith's voice turned sugary. Dear, let's discuss this. We will. In court. Where I'll tell everyone about the women behind the doors at Fernwood. All of them. You bitch. Carson lunged forward, but Krista appeared suddenly, stepping between us. Touch her, she said clearly, and I'll testify about everything I know. The look of betrayal on Edith's face was almost worth everything they'd put me through. Almost. Goodbye, Carson, I said softly. Give my regards to your lawyer. You'll be needing one. I stepped into the night, where Olive waited in her running car. Behind me, I heard Carson's phone ping. Probably the court order's landing. Then Edith's scream of rage echoed through the house as she realized exactly what had just happened, and exactly who had orchestrated their downfall. The courthouse hallway felt colder than it should for May. I sat between Barry and Olive, watching Carson and Edith whisper frantically with their lawyers across the corridor. They're offering a settlement, Barry murmured. Full financial restoration, sealed records. They'll disappear from your life. And Fernwood? I asked. The other women. Not part of their offer. Then no deal. Krista hurried up, looking pale. Mother's furious. She tried to access her offshore accounts this morning. They're frozen. All of them? Barry asked. Everything the investigator found. Krista sat beside me. She's actually scared. I've never seen her scared before. The courtroom doors opened. Dr. Matthews shuffled past, head down, avoiding eye contact. His medical license had been suspended pending investigation. They're ready, Barry stood. Remember, let me do the talking. Inside, I watched Carson and Edith take their seats. They'd aged decades in 2 weeks. Carson's confident smile had crumbled. Edith's perfectly coiffed hair showed gray at the roots. All rise. The judge entered, reviewed some papers, then looked directly at me. Mrs. Hopkins, are you sure you won't consider the settlement offer? Yes, Your Honor. This isn't about money anymore. Very well. She turned to Carson and Edith. In that case, we'll proceed with evidence. Barry stood. Your Honor, we'd like to begin with Exhibit A, video footage from the attempted commitment intervention. The color drained from Carson's face. The footage played on the courtroom screens. Carson grabbing my wrist. Edith's threats. The carefully orchestrated gaslighting, all captured in perfect clarity. Exhibit B, Barry continued. Bank records showing systematic theft and fraud. Objection. Carson's lawyer jumped up. Those records were obtained illegally. Overruled. The judge cut in. The warrant covered all financial documents. Exhibit C, Barry pressed on. Medical records from Fernwood Center, showing a pattern of fraudulent commitments spanning 10 years. Edith's lawyer whispered urgently in her ear. She shook her head sharply. And finally, Barry paused. Exhibit D, a witness. The courtroom doors opened. A thin woman entered, supported by a nurse. Edith's face went gray. Margaret, she whispered. Aunt Margaret looked nothing like the vibrant woman in old family photos. 2 years at Fernwood had left her haunted, fragile. But her voice rang clear as she testified about the drugging, the isolation, the systematic destruction of her identity. They took everything, she finished. My money, my freedom, my life. Because I discovered their scheme. Your Honor, Carson's lawyer interrupted. My client is willing to revise the settlement offer. Too late, I said clearly. We're not stopping until Fernwood is shut down. The judge studied the evidence files. Mrs. Hopkins, you understand pursuing this could take months, years? I understand. But there are women behind those doors who can't fight for themselves. You vindictive little. Edith started to rise, but her lawyer pulled her back. Very well. The judge straightened. Given the evidence presented, I'm ordering all assets frozen pending criminal investigation. Mr. Hopkins and Mrs. Hopkins Sr. will surrender their passports. And the courtroom doors burst open again. A police detective entered, followed by 2 officers. Your Honor, he announced, we have arrest warrants for Carson Hopkins and Edith Hopkins. New evidence has emerged regarding the death of Sarah Hopkins at Fernwood Center in 2013. Carson's first wife, the one who committed suicide. No, Carson stumbled back. You can't prove. Actually, the detective said, we can. Dr. Matthews gave a full confession this morning. I watched them lead Carson and Edith away in handcuffs, watched their carefully constructed world crumble completely. Ingrid, Carson called desperately from the doorway. Please, I loved you. The baby. The baby. I stood slowly. You were planning my destruction before our child even had a heartbeat. You held me while I grieved, knowing you'd use that grief to destroy me. That wasn't love. That was predation. You'll regret this, Edith spat as they pulled her past. You have no idea what you've done. Actually, I do. I met her eyes steadily. I've done exactly what you taught me, identified a weakness, and exploited it mercilessly. Your weakness was underestimating me. The doors closed behind them. In the sudden quiet, Krista touched my arm. What happens now? She asked softly. Now, I looked at Barry, at the files documenting years of systematic abuse. Now we free the women at Fernwood, all of them. And then, I thought of my empty nursery, of all the lives Carson and Edith had destroyed. Then we make sure this never happens to anyone else. The judge's gavel fell, echoing like a final heartbeat through the courtroom, like the closing of a door, like justice, served cold but complete. The last box from the nursery sat heavy in my arms as I carried it down the stairs. Olive waited by the door, car keys in hand. You sure about this? She asked. The house is worth a fortune. Blood money, I replied, setting the box down. Every brick paid for by women they destroyed. Let the state auction it. My phone buzzed, Barry calling with updates. Carson and Edith's trial dates were set. Dr. Matthews had turned state's evidence, revealing decades of fraud. Fernwood Center was being investigated by federal authorities. The last residents are being released today, Barry said. Margaret's helping them with support services. Good. I glanced around the empty foyer. Any word from Krista? She's testifying next week. The DA says her evidence about Edith's previous victims is crucial. A knock at the door made me jump. Through the glass, I saw a familiar face, my half-brother Valentin, whom I hadn't seen since our father's funeral. I'll call you back, I told Barry. Valentin looked uncomfortable in his suit. Hey sis, saw the news. Come to check if the rumors are true. Come to apologize. He shifted awkwardly. I should have believed you about Carson years ago, when you first said something felt off. Water under the bridge. No, it's not. He met my eyes. I'm a cop now, missing persons division. The stuff you uncovered about Fernwood. We've been looking for some of those women for years. I leaned against the door frame. Find anything interesting? Yeah, about Carson's first wife, Sarah. He pulled out his phone, showed me a photo. She had a sister, been searching for Sarah since she disappeared. She's flying in to testify. The implications hit hard. Sarah hadn't been alone. She'd had family searching for her, family Carson had somehow hidden from. There's more, Valentine continued. Sarah was pregnant when she died. The room spun slightly. Olive steadied me. Carson knew, I whispered. He knew exactly how to use my pregnancy, my miscarriage, because he'd done it before. You stopped him from doing it again. Valentine touched my shoulder. You saved lives, sis. But I couldn't save my baby. No, but you saved other mothers, other babies. He gestured at the boxes. Where will you go? Somewhere new, somewhere without ghosts. Let me help, he offered. With the move, with whatever comes next. Why? Because I failed you once, won't happen again. Another car pulled up, Krista, with Margaret in the passenger seat. They'd become inseparable since the trial began, healing together. Ready? Krista called. The Women's Shelter Board meeting starts in an hour. The shelter had been my idea. A place for women escaping situations like Fernwood, staffed by survivors who understood, funded by seized assets from Carson and Edith's accounts. Almost ready, I replied. Ingrid, Margaret's voice was stronger now. There's someone else here to see you. A young woman emerged from the back seat, thin, haunted, but determined. I'm Rachel, she said. Sarah's sister. My heart stuttered. I'm so sorry about Sarah. Don't be. You exposed the truth. That's more than anyone else did. She hugged herself. I'm pregnant. Found out last week. Seeing what you did, it gave me hope. That evil doesn't always win. It doesn't, I agreed softly. Not if we fight back. The shelter, Rachel said. I want to help. To honor Sarah, Olive picked up a box. Well, we've got work to do then. Together, we loaded the last boxes. I turned to lock the door one final time, remembering all the tears, fears, and silent victories these walls had witnessed. Goodbye, Carson, I whispered. Enjoy prison. In my pocket, my phone buzzed with a text from Barry. Carson requesting plea deal, offering everything he knows about Edith's other victims. Let him talk, I typed back. Let him betray her like he betrayed everyone else. Valentine touched my arm. Ready? I looked at my unlikely family. Olive, Krista, Margaret, Rachel, my long-lost brother. People brought together by darkness, but choosing light. Ready, I said firmly. As we drove away, I didn't look back at the house. My future wasn't there. It was ahead, in the shelter we were building, in the lives we'd help rebuild. My baby was gone, but their legacy would be salvation for others, protection for those who needed it most. And Carson, Edith, they'd rot in cells, knowing they'd been destroyed by the very thing they'd tried to exploit. A woman's grief turned to purpose, a victim who refused to break, a phoenix rising from ashes they'd created, rising and soaring free.